obsession to respond without actually thinking intentionally as to what we can do that actually matters in the long term. And there's a lot of like issues that are brought up by, let's say, people with accessibility needs that have been brought up over the years that are, I guess, like being brought to light with the pandemic, especially with, you know, a lot of these in-person activation is not happening in person anymore. So there's a lot more like things and a lot more consideration to think about. And so I think with, especially personally speaking, working in the nonprofit sector, I think there's definitely a movement or like a strive for growth, and it's growth and improvement every single day and every single week and every single month to make sure we capture the data, to make sure we are including everyone's like perspective and feedback without actually having a concrete discussion on important subject matter internally. Like it's, everything is very outward public facing, and there's not as much of a focus on internal communication to make sure we're all on the same page, to make sure that we are all working with our mandate, yes, organizationally, but also as humans. And so
this is a really good point, Wendy, and I think that this is really linked to the era that we live in. We live in an era of late capitalism, which is about massive, constant expansion. And so in a way, it's reflected in the types of work that almost we're expected to be as individuals, constantly succeeded, constantly making, constantly creating, constantly like outgoing. And I wonder if like, is there another way? And what is the other way? I don't know, but I think that maybe we can unpack different examples or ideas.
I think that the idea that art could be the place of care is extremely interesting, and I think we all could respond to that. I haven't been able to do my artwork during the pandemic at all because I ended up being a key worker, and I'm just very tired. I can't do any artwork at the moment because I don't have any energy left. But the fact is, people don't dare to go to the places of care, which are GP practices and hospitals. And there, the concept of art being the place of care, I find that extremely interesting.
One thing that comes to mind is for me, questioning, production, making versus processes, and what how we can actually think more of engaging in processes, long-term, open-ended rather, versus products, and products just production and making outcomes. And I mean, for me, generally my practice has always been more interested in research and process-based work. So that's something that I'm kind of I'm thinking at the moment even more.
I've been thinking about the role of joy a bit in a time where there is so much despair and so much that's going on, where we're really juggling a lot of the darkness and the struggles that exist in our world, and have been thinking a lot about, as an artist, feeling quite helpless, but recognizing that what I can do is sometimes bring that laugh that's needed, or a smile for a moment, and looking at ways that I can kind of allow that to bubble up a bit. Got a show called Unicorn Dance Party, and the whole concept behind it was to go into public spaces dressed as these sort of silver spandex unicorn women and create dance parties. And so we've been looking at ways to do that online and still engage with people, and have started doing these like unicorn grams where we can send people a little hello from these crazed unicorn women clowns. And so I think I'm finding myself kind of curious about leveraging some of that right now, as someone interested in social practice and social change, as a form of political activism to what's happening now.
That is excellent. The radical as a simple act or gesture. And I think to think about how you might bring something like laughter in these times as an intervention project is really powerful. We don't have to think about, again, pulling back from this idea that we have to make the big statement all the time. And that actually, when we think about care and we think about how we care for others, it's not in those big grandiose statements. So I think that's a really great example. Let's just give another like at least one or two comments from some other people, because the room's too good. I know you got to close it. John's being very good, but one or two comments, make it quick.
We've just been thinking about how the virus, but especially the response to the virus, is hitting all the things that are sites of radicalism, like being together, sharing space, a commons. But then there's been this really interesting way of like making an alternate commons at the moment. And I hope that we can translate that into whatever the world is after this.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm glad we got to meet together, even if it was quick. Cheers. Thank you.